Good evening. My name is Maddie Whittle. I'm a programmer here at Film at Lincoln Center, and I'm so pleased to welcome you all to this evening's opening night screening of the Asthenic Syndrome, kicking off Kira Muratova, Scenographies of Chaos. We here at Lincoln Center are incredibly proud and excited to be involved in this retrospective, the most comprehensive North American retrospective of Muratova's work to date. It's really, it feels that we have a connection with Muratova and her work here at Lincoln Center. A much smaller retrospective in her honor was mounted here in the 2000s, and just a few years ago, when Janus Films restored two of her most known works, The Long Farewell and Brief Encounters, we were really fortunate to be able to exhibit those in our theaters as well. And so now, on this occasion of a much fuller and richer retrospective, we are really relishing this opportunity to, along with our audiences, delve more deeply into the work of this underseen master of Ukrainian and world cinema. This project has been the result of a really fruitful and energizing collaboration with Factura 10, which is a project, a flagship initiative of Ribbon International that is presenting 10 events throughout the course of the year, celebrating the cultural and artistic histories and practices that continue in and from Ukraine. And one of the co-curators of the series will say a bit more about that in just a moment. But we really want to thank the Factura 10 team and Ribbon International, as well as the Alexander Dovzhenko National Center in Kiev, where many of the prints that were the source materials for the digital restorations and scans that you'll be seeing over the course of this series came from. And so we've benefited immensely from this collaboration, as well as from the partnership of Janus Films, who I'm so thrilled to say is with us this evening, world premiering this new 4K restoration of the Asthenic Syndrome, which my collaborator Marta will also speak about in just a moment. So thank you so much to Factura 10, to Ribbon International, to the Dovzhenko Center, to Janus Films, and of course to you, the audience, for coming out to encounter these works with us. If you are intrigued by this evening's screening, I hope that you'll check out the rest of the lineup on our website, filmlink.org. The program runs through May 25th, and so there will be lots more opportunities to discover many of these rarely screened works that have been newly digitized and are newly available for theatrical viewing. I won't say too much more than that, but I do just want to mention that there's this beautiful printed booklet that Factura 10 has prepared on the occasion of this retrospective. You can pick one up out in the lobby following the screening, and it has information about all of the films, as well as some additional contextual material on Muratova. So without further ado, I hope you will join me in giving a very warm welcome to the Artistic Director and Chief Curator of Factura 10 and the co-curator of Kira Muratova, Scenographies of Chaos, Professor of Art from Yale University, Marta Kuzma.
Thank you, Maddie, for such a warm welcome. Dobry večer. Good evening and welcome to this posthumous retrospective, the very first of the Ukrainian filmmaker Kira Muratova, who, although admired and highly celebrated in her own country and throughout its region, has never really gained the renown that her work and gifts so plainly deserve. This evening is a celebration of Muratova's work and personhood. I am very grateful to my colleague, the Ukrainian film scholar Ivan Kozlenko, for his cooperation as co-curator, and to Olena Honchoruk, who is here with us from Kiev, the creative director from the Dovzhenko Film Archive in Kiev. Olena, perhaps if you could stand up, because it's so great you've made the trip. and the Dovzhenko Film Archive in Kiev had been so very crucial in providing the critical institutional support that made possible this comprehensive assemblage of Muratova's work for an American audience. And it's very important to say that we had additional support and cooperation from the Odessa Film Studio, from the Ukrainian State Film Agency, from Budushche, and from the Sota Cinema Group. It was not an easy task, but here we are this evening. So tonight's premiere, possible thanks to the Film at Lincoln Center and Janice, thank you very much, includes a screening, as Maddie said, of the newly restored copy of Muratova's masterpiece, The Asthenic Syndrome. It was made in 1989. It was released 3 years after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, 2 years short of the Soviet Union's dissolution as a sovereign state, and 2 years before Ukraine's declaration of independence. In this film, Muratova's cinematography swings pendulum-like between the desperate rants of those attempting to hold tight the rituals of the past and those probing a still uncharted future. The Asthenic Syndrome opens in the starting scene over an expansive circular trench. It's a construction site that has been interrupted, perhaps halted or abandoned. The deep depression in the earth seems prescient, establishing the idea of interruption as a thread that runs through the film and as it relates to the dissolution of social, political, and economic frameworks of one system and the absence of another yet to be installed. Muratova hones in on the existential crisis of a society whose ground remains excavated, but at the same time not yet laid in terms of how their lives will be lived, how continuity will be traced, and how the future may be imagined. Go to hell, everyone. These are the first and among only words uttered by Natasha, the protagonist in part 1 of tonight's film. Muratova takes her words as a cue to follow suit as the film and its characters fall into disarray. It banishes them and us to a Dante-esque inferno, concentric circles of torment that warp the human intellect by means of fraud, deceit, and unpredictability. Muratova intermittently hijacks us from its frame by disrupting any expectation of a conventional narrative, only to dip us back in at some other point along life's bumpy storyline. The title of the film, The Asthenic Syndrome, is a reference to a medical term for fatigue and a condition that relates to a physical weakness and the lack of energy. Her characters, mostly workers, researchers, and artists, are predisposed to a physical dissipation of energy. Muratova, however, frames her title in such a way that it is permissible creatively to reveal what she actually wanted to convey, the psychological condition of a society subject to state psychosis, the product of a system of psychiatry manipulated for political means, and one in which mental health was subject to the legal system, wherein being mad implied dissent, and the state psychiatric apparatus identified sluggish schizophrenia, that was the term they used, with symptoms that included reform delusions, struggle for truth, and perseverance. With this film, Muratova assumes a social responsibility for establishing a co-presence of history, not as something archaic, but rather as something nearby and familiar, and sets it against the larger unknown. This positioning suggests a possible path through the present rather than jump-starting a future. In this way, the space of interruption is the space of the stammering. It is the space of belligerence. It is the space of imagination. Vanished time becomes part of natural time, and chronology falls away to uncover deeper realities and allows the space to posit the questions that need to be asked and which are asked in the film. Where is your justice? What does the new citizen look like? What will constitute the school? Who will teach the teachers? Will those who remain in place become mere moral castrates? Despite its turbulent structure, Muratova asserts a rational and responsible questioning of the role of art and culture in terms of rupture and transformation. She provides an example of how to create a blueprint and to curate a wider project around cultural production in Ukraine, now nearly 4 decades later, in the time of war, and how rupture provides the opportunity to think anew about art. And this is what we invite you to join in tonight and in the upcoming projects of Factura 10 as they unfold in Ukraine beginning next month. Before inviting my colleague Ivan Kozlenko to the podium, I really must thank the enormous efforts of what we have as a small but really efficient team. Leah Richard Nagel from New York. Leah, can you please stand up? You've done so much. Willis Kingery, and who's produced with Matt Wolf the visual identity for this project here tonight and has been part of our project. Willis, you're here as well with Matt. Daria Anosova, who's currently in London, Anastasia Zatula, who is in Kiev, and I'd like to thank the Ribbon team and Amy Kim, its executive director. I don't know if Amy is here somewhere tonight. I'd like to give a hand to Amy. And then I'd really like to know, for those of you who don't know about it, tomorrow there's a panel of speakers gathering at the Ukrainian Institute on 79th Street and 5th Avenue. It's a beautiful building right across from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, from 1 to 3:30 to discuss Muratova's work. And that will be with Ivan Kozlenko, Professor Vitaly Chernetsky, who's here this evening, Irina Shulsky, who's here this evening, David Molina, and Victoria Paranyuk, who is also joining us this evening. And we welcome you afterwards to join us in the reception. Ivan, please come join, and thank you for your work.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me here. I don't want to take a lot of time. I just want to say that I envy those of you who will be encountering Muratova for the first time. It's a great joy and also a great revelation. Maybe not with this film. It's quite tough, I have to warn you, but still, it's a beautiful journey, and I envy you. And also, I regret for those who don't understand Russian and the peculiarities of the different languages and dialects and pronunciations and mannerisms that Muratova saturated this film. It's the first, actually, film where the reality of Odessa so obviously enters the film texture, and you can virtually hear the Odessan, so-called Odessan language, the Ukrainian language, the Romani language, the broken English, like a bunch of languages that gives you the understanding about the multicultural city that namely Odessa, that Muratova had a very complicated life-hate relationships. But still, if we want to identify her as a filmmaker, and also as a opinion leader, we still have to remember that she was very important figure not only in Ukrainian culture, but also for this local Odessa culture that she was trying to analyze, to bring to people as something not only funny, but also very sensual and intimate. And I think that this her attempt to picture Odessa as to give a portrait of Odessa as a city that has this difficult, mixture of culture, languages, personalities. This is something really important and interesting to experience, and I really envy that you will be, some of you at least, will be experience this at the first time. So thank you for coming. Please join us for the next screenings during the next week and enjoy the screening.